Well, we find ourselves here in our 10th episode. and late
10th episode.
And late at that, right?
Yeah. It's a new day. Kind of throwing me off a little bit. No. I'm glad we got to get it in this week, though. That's for sure.
Yeah, one of the things is those of you who maybe follow the Space Shorts channel, I've tried not to let those things, life kind of bleed over too much into gaming life, but, sometimes things do pop up in life, and I just want to say to those of you out there who listen to the podcast, who like, sub, and do all those things, sorry for the delay. I think there are times when there are family things that just kind of eclipse life and gaming life a little bit, and I had definitely some things to take care of on my side, and so I apologize to anybody out there who was waiting for the 10th episode, and sorry for the delay. It was it was unavoidable, and as we move forward, I think we have a great show tonight. It's probably a very different show based on what would have happened Wednesday night versus what's happening tonight on Sunday. But Joe, I just wanted to say thank you all for hanging in there with us, and Zel and I take a lot of pride on making sure that we meet our commitments and that type of thing, and for sure it was not lost on me that we were running behind with this, but it was one of those things that was unavoidable this time.
Well, we definitely try to get these things out for everybody, and people enjoy it, and I know you've had a rough week, brother, and I'm glad you had enough time to get to sit down and let's go through a few things.
Yeah. So what an interesting week this has been, of course, in life, and really kind of turning the corner here and talking Star Citizen things now. What a wonderful distraction that is. Of course, 3.17.2 dropped. What do you think about that, Zel?
Well, I'm pissed, man. I'm mad. I'm going to kick rocks and get my toys and go home because, no, guys, we've had a couple of days to, I guess, digest what's going on, or what's, is it one of the things that we just go ahead and address the elephant in the room?
Yeah, and, I think it's
a little bit.
Definitely a Paygate. Is that
Paygate?
I don't know. There's got to be some kind of funny. So anyways, yeah. As everybody knows, the 3.17.2 patch dropped, and even me, who was really kind of hemmed in with family, I managed to kind of Thursday night, very late, kind of get in the update a bit for a second, because people were mentioning some incredible amount of AUEC they'd received, and I logged in myself, and I had 31 million. And I don't know. I don't think I ever really. I know I kind of collectively created more than 31 million AUEC, but I think about the most I had liquid at one time was probably around 20. Like, I got to 20, and I'd buy 5 or 6, an MSR, and then a C2, and then I got back up to 20, and so I'm sure collectively I had way more than 31 million AUEC, but I was very surprised to see that when I logged in.
Yeah. A lot of people were, and things that we've kind of spoken about this for probably a little month, if not a little longer, that, we knew the wipe was coming. One of the reasons that they were, wiping the inventories and things was, yes, to fix, some corrupted data on the back end. We knew that was kind of a thing. But we also knew that one of the reasons that, that there was going to be a monetary wipe, it's no big secret, is all the bugs that popped up in 3.17 and then 3.17.1. When it popped up in 3.17, it was the dupe bug, where you can dupe an item and then sell it over and over and over and over again. And then for 3.17.1, it was the where you can, buy the audio visual equipment right there during that time of Invictus. That first week of Invictus, you could buy all that, audio visual equipment from, Area 18 or Microtech, and then take it to Orison and sell it for double the price. So you could load up, it'd take 14 million to load up a C2, fly it to Orison, and, make 30 something million right off the bat. So we knew the economy kind of got thrown out of whack big time. And in the consequence of that, it also brought down, people's drive to play the game a little bit, because when people were just handing out, 15, 20 million just to random people, everybody had a shit ton of money. So once you get to the point where you can buy everything that you want, but you purchase all the ships that you'd ever want, then it kind of takes the motivation out of playing a little bit. So we did see, we did see the player base kind of, drop, due to that consequence. I know later on down the road, it kind of was one of those things that even we took a little break, knowing that the patch was on the horizon and that, everything was going to be wiped. I mean, that was the sole reason we're like, well, we'll take a little break. We got a few bugs that isn't going to allow us to mine. And then, we'll just kind of take July off, and which we did. And then when, in the last that we heard was that the, guess they're calling it a stipend now, but the amount of money that, our starting credits was kind of going to be based on, whether you attended these events, Jumptown, and completed Jumptown, and then also did the Ninetales event. And so we knew we were going to get a little bump in money, doing those events. So we were under the impression that we're probably going to get about 100K, from, just past reference, because they did that in the past. So we're like, okay. And so, we already had an idea of probably what we're going to start with. And even if we didn't get paid out, we know we're starting with 25 grand. So we're, everybody was under that impression. It had been talked about, all the different content creators that went over it. We went over it for a couple weeks. And then when 3.17.2 live went live, people logged in with an excessive amount of money. Even I logged in with 33 million. We know people that logged in with more. So, a lot of people, I want to be fair to people and kind of address it in this way. And, and I'm not, and if you truly did get upset about it, that's, that's your feeling on it. But I guess my feeling on it was that, when we first logged in and then I looked at how much money we had, I was like, yeah, this is a mistake, and they're gonna wipe the money again.
And
go ahead.
No. That makes. The one thing I want to say, just really briefly, and I'll let you continue, and then I have a few things to say. Is the one thing I will say is, if anybody who was going into this wipe, thought that they were going to log in and have 31 million, nobody thought that. Nobody, I think we all, thought somewhere between, whatever the base starting amount is, maybe you'll get 25 or 50,000 for each event. That 100,000 mark didn't seem unreasonable. And quite honestly is enough to get, if you get 100,000 AUEC, that's enough to get you off the ground. I mean, that certainly is enough to make sure that you have plenty of gas money and get you either a Lancet mining laser or a couple of upgrades for some lasers. It is enough to kind of get you started. So, the one thing I will say, I don't think nobody predicted, and certainly, Zel, you and I keep our ear to the track pretty closely. Not one person said, "Oh, when we log in, we're going to have 27 million or 31 million or 33 million or whatever." Nobody was saying that.
Yeah, it was one of the things. They one of the things that we didn't even know about. It was never said that they were going to base the amount of money on game time played. That was something they didn't mention. And, when we spoke about it before, as you said, if they had at least told us what their intentions were, people would have played more on the back end. That last couple of weeks of July, people would have been playing more, so, to hopefully get more when, for the stipend that they were going to hand out. So, with that being said, they basically put put a decimal place in the wrong place. And, I don't fault them. It was a mistake. And, whether they came up with this at the 11th hour or, it was something that they thought it would be a great surprise for everybody and they were trying to do right by the community. And look, guys, how are you, if you truly do feel upset about this situation, hey, I respect your feelings. I respect the way you feel about it. But the reality is that, when they addressed it pretty quick, faster than I thought they was. The night that I logged, I guess it was Friday night that this all went down, and it was the first time that I actually had gotten to log in. And I was like, oh shit, look at all, when I logged in, I was like, oh, look at all this stuff. So the first thing, I was like, oh, well, here's all this money. And, they're going to probably wipe it. So, I went out and, all I did was, buy a cargo hauler, because I didn't know if, whatever I bought, if they were going to wipe it too. So I wasn't that hyped up about it. Or if they, were going to, I knew a wipe was going to come at some point. I would have thought it would have been maybe a couple days later when they were going to hot fix a few things. But it's probably better that they nipped it in the bud in the beginning. And let's be fair, everybody. You logged in with millions of credits. A lot of people basically bought as much as, they could with the 30 mil or however much they logged in with. And, I heard people, buying, all these big ships and spending just about all their money on them. So wasn't sure how CIG was going to react. So I was kind of going, I'll, at least buy this or whatever, and it'll be cool. And even still, I was like, well, maybe not. So when we got the update, because we have a Star Citizen News update that pops up on our Discord, and it came out, I guess it was around midnight our time, that they're like, oh, sorry guys, we made a mistake. We're not gonna do a server wipe, but we're going to, wipe the money. And I was like, well, I knew it was coming. So I was like, well, maybe I can go and buy another ship real quick before they do the wipe. Because, they said if you were reasonable about it, that they weren't going to wipe the ships. So, by the time I got back to Lorville, I was literally, by the time that news flash came out, I was about 20 million kilometers from Lorville. By the time I landed and got to the terminal at New Deal, they had already locked the terminals out. So, it was a quick thing. But, I do want to address that, those of you that truly did get upset about this whole situation, I understand and I respect your feelings about it. But, let's not pretend that, when it was all said and done, we knew this was a mistake on their end. They made, they accidentally made a mistake, and I, I don't think there's anybody that didn't realize that from the beginning. And the very fact that they allowed you to keep what you bought instead of wiping it too, just goes to show that they were trying to do right by you. And they didn't want another situation where the economy got cluttered again. And, they want you guys to go out and play the game and, experience all the new stuff that they added to the game to, and want you to have fun to get you through to 3.18. So, I know there's a lot of contrarians out there that, they get pissed off about whatever, and that's okay. But, let us be fair and say that, when you did see the amount of money that you had, that you knew it was a mistake. And, we're all better off. I mean, we actually, we have a buddy of ours that was like, wow, I'm actually kind of disappointed a little bit because I was ready to, start from scratch again.
And I think there was a lot of people who are interested in that kind of starting from scratch again. There's always, there's a lot of games that go back like that, do like time lock servers, and I think WoW Classic is another example of that. Server wipes are popular. They are. People kind of,
especially in alphas.
Yeah, there's a nostalgia thing to it, or let's learn how to do this more efficiently type challenge, or there's a lot of good stuff to it, and so, I think one thing I will say though is, acknowledging the mistake of the fact that they probably, and obviously they felt like they had made a mistake. And, I do think though that they, even by their own acknowledgement, did not necessarily handle this correctly. And I think that there's some things that we can speak to that, which, I'll just kind of, give my own experience really quickly on that part of it. When I logged in and seen the 31 million, I definitely, and I spoke about this, I definitely didn't have this is like, my first thought wasn't they're going to wipe this. Although, later on when the argument was made, like, we made this mistake, it's obvious that, it's quite obvious that there's, it's no, but I will say the one thing that's, where you really do make a mistake, as say, as a company, or as a way that you kind of, your messaging is, the unfortunate thing is when you've got your community, and that's what happened. I mean, it's just kind of the way the internet is nowadays, and that type of thing. Because I logged on Saturday morning to do a stream, I, kind of made it home on Friday, was able to get some rest, and was, blessed to be able to get up and do a stream. And before I did that, though, I kind of hit up the kind of the content team. Like, I was really blessed. Starstreams kind of invited me into this Discord with a bunch of YouTube, content creators, and some really, really great people in there. And they were already talking about how the community seemed so divided, and I didn't quite understand what they were talking about at first, because it was surprising. I mean, I hadn't, really spent that much time focused around it. But I actually, I logged in to kind of prep for my stream, and I, just kind of, one of the things I do is turn off F12, is turn off the chat, because when I stream, I don't have the chat on there just in case somebody's salty or whatever. But I was reading the chat for, and it was basically about 3 or 4 different people yelling at each other about their differences of opinion on this stuff. And, so that's, that's the one thing, I mean, just to speak as plainly as possible, you really did, however this worked out. And I think we all can acknowledge, based on the fact that we received an amount of money that was absolutely astronomically higher than we would have ever received, in a wipe. So clearly there was a mistake made. But that's the one, they really did, of course, trying to reset this. By that time, somebody had mentioned to me, hey, I started out, I had 31 million, then I had like 1 million, then I had like 20,000, and then I went out and I worked, really hard and did a bunch of quests or whatever, or missions or whatever. And I was had over, well over 100,000, and I was proud of myself. Went to lunch, came back, and I was set back to 20,000. So that was, they're definitely while we're trying to be reasonable about the fact that people shouldn't necessarily have. If you had, like Zel was saying, if you felt like, hey, I deserve this or whatever, I think we can all agree that was an egregious amount of revenue, unequivocally. There certainly were some other mistakes that were made there that, number one, whenever you have your community kind of, and your community is going to do this anyways, but whenever you have a situation where you've granted this thing and then taken it away, and then your way that you're taking it away is kind of wiping away regular progress, and oh boy, you really you really do get over your skis a little bit. And the worst thing that you want is your community to have a reason to kind of argue amongst each other on the internet, because they will. and they were. So
it's for sure. I mean, yes, like I said, no one has spoken to me about it from CIG or whatever, but the way I kind of, like I said, whether they were trying to surprise the community and do a good thing, somehow it got screwed up. Right? So,
yeah.
And if not, if it was something that they came up with in the 11th hour, either way, I feel like they were trying to give you more money, or trying to justify a way to give you guys more money than you guys thought you were going to get to begin with, right? And maybe, like I said, and this is why I feel like it kind of was, maybe they were trying to surprise the community, is that that they didn't test their math in the PTU, where, at least tested on the last couple of days, where people would log in with a certain amount of money, and, the game would calculate your playtime. So for however long that you played in the PTU, at least they would get a good idea of, if this algorithm was going to work properly. So, for them to put this, untested algorithm out, and, we logged in with an exorbitant amount of money, and then it kind of comes to this. But, the way I see it is, I feel like they were trying to do a good thing for the community in the beginning. And I'm not a CIG apologist. I mean, we speak about this all the time. We're high on the idea. We love the game, but, and it's probably because I'm a pragmatic person, and I just kind of see things for what they are. So when I logged in, the first thing I thought was, oh yeah, they messed up. This will be wiped. But I didn't go, I didn't kick rocks about it, because look, man, I was realistic about the situation. I realized I'd been talking about it for a freaking month. You think that, when I logged in, I was going to log in with more money than I logged out with?
That's a good point.
When they specifically said we're wiping money, so
True.
It's just unrealistic expectations by the community. And look, and I don't want to downplay if there's people that have legitimate beef about it. I understand, but you also got to acknowledge that you can't go under the assumption that you're going to log back into the game with more money than you logged out with. They specifically told you there were going to be a money wipe.
Yeah, no, I think the point you're making is great. I mean, going into this, nobody expected to have that kind of revenue. Where I was kind of at Saturday morning, after kind of, like I said, kind of listening to kind of some of the reaction of the content creators and watching people argue, on, just kind of on a server that I happened to log into. I kind of was in both camps in this sense, right? I could certainly understand where somebody's like, well, you screwed up and you gave me 30 million, and you screwed up and gave other people 30, 40, 50 million, whatever, and half those people spent it and I didn't. So if you take it away from me, but let them keep their ships,
Now,
and that type of thing, and so here's just
that is definitely, yes. In that sense, now that is an argument that we can argue for sure.
yeah. And so, but the one thing I just want to say that what's important to me is like, that seems okay. It's a reasonable argument. You know what I mean? Nobody could argue that it's a reasonable argument that you got that much, that, that's what they wanted to do, because clearly they didn't. But whether or not, some people who got it, some people who didn't. But the other thing is so you got this reasonable argument. Like, I did hear people say, well, why don't they just let us keep it, man? They're going to wipe it in 120 days anyways. That's a reasonable argument too. I mean, I think that there's a lot of conversation that can be had about that's going to stymie progression, or people are going to play for a couple of days and have so much money they just don't really have any direction.
That's the thing. Take the motivation out of people's gameplay, and so yes, but yes, I am with you on the it not necessarily being fair, where if you logged in a day later, you didn't even have the opportunity to buy anything, and to have a couple of it's in that kind of sense, it's kind of put it in that that these dudes at least got to have a couple of head start ships,
right?
And I didn't, because I had to work this weekend and I only got to log in today, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Yes, that argument is very valid. I mean, and I agree with it. So
the one thing I will say, though, just in no way, I also do agree with the people who are like, hey, like you were talking about, our friend who was kind of like, hey, I was really looking forward to creating this content, like showing people how I get off the ground. Like, I'm a new character with just an Aurora. Watch me start. And I do think that that's also, it's one of those things where when I was watching these people argue, I could see validity on both sides, right? It's like, it's a reasonable argument. Why did not let us keep it? Or how could these guys get to spend it and I didn't? Versus, it's also a reasonable argument to say, hey man, you should just wipe it again, and just, we thought we were all having this, this regular baseline, maybe an extra 50,000 or 100,000 start, just go ahead and restart it. And so you've got your community both making good points on both sides of the aisle. And they're arguing it. It's like, that's when as like I said, as kind of your communications are definitely sideways. When people are making reasonable arguments on both, there certainly is any person who thought it was who felt entitled to that amount of AUEC because they were accidentally given it. That's not a reasonable argument. That was just a mistake. That was just a mistake. I mean, we all have been around gaming enough. That is a silly thing. But the other sides of those arguments, like I said, hey, this guy just bought 5 ships. I had to work that night. Now I got nothing. Or the other guy who's like, hey man, you took away my, you've been talking about this thing for a long time, how there's going to be this wipe. And some people really do get into like restarting, and I'm one of them. I think it's fun. I was really looking forward to that. It's like showing people kind of from the ground up. But if you log in with them, I logged in the second day with 1.2 million, not 31. There's plenty of money to kit everything out and that type of thing. I'm not angry about any of this stuff. I mean, to me, the most important thing is to have fun in the game, regardless. But I can tell you, I mean, obviously CIG felt like they made a few mistakes in here. Your player community is now, Spectrum. We laughed about it last night, and people are, the internet's a weird place. There's a lot of passive aggressiveness on the internet that's not healthy. Let's be realistic. But Spectrum was, man, I could have just rubbed my hands and held my hands up to the screen. It was like a, there was a lot of heat coming off that dumpster fire.
Well, I had a marshmallow on a stick, man. I was just holding it up to the monitor.
The popcorn. Oh, there are some sad people over here. Spectrum.
Dude, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So, in that sense, yeah, exactly. And you can see what personality type I am. Hell, man, I logged in with all that cash, and I only bought a small cargo ship type thing. And because, it wasn't the fact that I knew, well, yeah, I knew they were wiping, but I was also like, well, at least the cargo ship just gets me started again.
It's an interesting point. The one thing I will think, and I'm just going to be completely honest about this, right? When I logged on and seen 31 million, if I'm honest with myself, was I more motivated to play or less motivated to play at that time? It was less motivated.
Well, absolutely, because you're like, well, I can start, in a couple weeks from now.
Yeah, what's the matter? I already got 31 million.
Yeah, exactly. If we wanted to do anything, then I can fund it too. And I also was, under the kind of that altruistic mindset of, because we got other guys in our group, and those guys weren't blessed enough to start out with prospectors and things like we do, right? So, I was also thinking of them. I was like, well, if this is going to be the case, I'll have a couple of days to buy a few guys prospectors to at least, get a jump start on that. And so, I kind of looked at it like that as well. But at no point was I under any illusion that we're going to keep that money. So
yeah, and like when I logged on and looked at that much money, I thought it was odd. You know what I mean? But when they came out and later said, "Hey guys, this wasn't meant," hey, we made a mistake. That to me seemed very odd. Okay, yes, clearly that's exactly what happened. None of us expected to have that, and so it was sad to see that many people up at arms at I get it. I understand, but like at the same time, I think they would have done themselves a lot better favor to have even just said, "Ka-chunk, we're just here. We're just resetting everybody back to just everybody's getting 20K."
Yep.
And then we're not going to our bad.
And like for me, dude, I guess where I felt a little bit sad about the whole situation. Yeah, it was a screw up, and it's one of those situations where it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation where it's what are you going to do? It's no matter what you do, people are going to get pissed about it.
Well, I think that's an honest assessment for sure. Once you've made the mistake, people are going to judge you,
yes.
However that works out.
Unfairly or whatever the case may be. Some people just take every fucking opportunity to take the situation and they just kind of take it too far. And the way I see is that the way I saw it is that and I don't know the minds of these people, but the way I saw it is they were trying to do a good thing and to surprise the community. And, somehow it didn't work out.
I do wonder how the math worked out, though. Just like, was I supposed to get 310,000 instead of 31 million?
Exactly. I think it would have been, I think they misplaced a decimal somewhere. And, it got a little crazy on them.
But pivoting back,
and I feel like they were trying to do a good thing.
Yeah.
To my assessment, I feel like they were trying to do a good thing, trying to surprise the community. And it didn't. It went way further than they wanted it to. But on the other hand, I honestly feel like CIG, the people that work at CIG are really, they really believe in the game and making a great game, and trying to do right. I honestly feel like I know that a few things have taken a long time to get done. It's the reality, and we've spoken about it before that it takes a long time, man. You can't dictate innovation, and so people, rightly so. I mean, everybody can get disappointed about how long things are taking. I mean, we've been there, We talk about it all the time. But, honestly, my gut feeling is that the devs really try to do right by the community. Deep down, you can almost kind of see it, when the community starts doing things like the Daymar rally, or putting putting the racetracks together, and then the devs like, hey, that's a great idea. Let's give you some assets, to flesh it out. And that's how the snake pit was born, that type of thing.
Yep.
So honestly believe that they're trying to do right by the community. And this is one of the situations that, they were trying to surprise us, because the fact that they didn't test it, they didn't test this algorithm that, was supposed to calculate time played and things like that in the PTU, shows that either they came up with it at the last minute, or that they were wanting to surprise everybody with the amount of money that they were going to log in with. And exactly what you said, I think it was going to be more in that 300,000 range than the 33 million range. Or it could have been in the 3 million range instead of the 33 million range. And everybody would have been happy. I logged in today just to see if, where all my stuff was. And, people that really didn't see what was going on through the weekend, it's their first time logging in, goes, hey, I logged in with 1 million credits. That's awesome.
Right.
Maybe they should have just said, hey, let's just, give everybody 1 million credits, man, and let it roll. And that would have been better. But I don't see this whole thing, this debacle as, CIG making a mistake and then trying to be malicious about it. I never read it.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think that anybody was trying to be malicious. I'm sure it was an honest mistake, and and even they've acknowledged, hey, we we mishandled it, and we mishandled it again, and it's kind of we're a little bit meme worthy about not getting it right at this point. Yeah, and I think, and to be honest with you, I think to fall on your sword like that is probably about the best you can do. And I think there certainly is. Once a mistake's been made, I think you and I said earlier, it's kind of, it's one of those things. I do think it would have been even they acknowledged, when they started running the script, and it was supposed to be, take a few minutes, and it ended up taking 12 hours and kind of resetting people's money and some of those types of things. It's, I make this analogy all the time. And I work in some kind of technical project management stuff. And there are some times, like when you all of a sudden have created a monster accidentally, somehow or another, sometimes you're in such a hurry to get away from the monster, that you begin not making great decisions. It's kind of like you're running from the monster and then you trip over the log because you're looking back at it, not looking ahead, and then the monster gets you anyways. That seems to it's kind of what happened here. I think they made a mistake, and then they tried to. The mistake got compounded by another mistake that they tried to do a quick fix, and then it was like, that's not going to work. They tried to do another little thing, and then that wasn't working, and then and so. The one thing I will say, it's very easy for us to sit here in these chairs, and as everybody would know tonight, and be like, boy, you guys screwed that one up. And by all accounts, that it wasn't handled correctly. I mean, we're not letting them off the hook. But, I don't think that there was any, like you used the word malicious. No, heavens and stars. Far from malicious, I think it just goes to show you that no matter how much careful planning, and I'm sure this wasn't off the cuff, these things do happen. You're going to see more, especially when the game's in I know that people don't like to hear the game's in an alpha state. And that's a shield for everybody's dragon breath. I mean, I totally understand why people are like, that can't be an all-encompassing shield. But in many ways, you're going to see you're going to see kind of how the sausage is made. Just because there are things moving forward, there is going to be some things that we're going to see behind the scenes that isn't going to sit well, or isn't going to seem like, boy, you know, like I almost feel like we're comparing like it as if it was like an actual live launch of the game. It wasn't. It was a hot patch, or pardon me, it was a new update for the game. And, you know, hey, they messed up the money. They tried to fix the money, and you know, they made it worse for a little while. And that, you know, now they're this week, they're going to give you some more money to fix it up.
Well, I guess the thing is the way I kind of see it, and hey, I could be way off base, but I feel like it's kind of sad when they were trying to do a good thing, and then, you know, everything blows up.
Well, and like I said, I think they found themselves in that position because there were reasonable arguments that could be made on both sides. I could see both arguments, and that's, you know, it wasn't like starkly clear, like one side is, you're just wrong. You know what I mean? The only people who were really wrong were the people who potentially just felt like they were entitled to it just because they accidentally got it in the first place. You know, but outside of that, you know, there was reasonable arguments on both sides of the aisle, and I decided that I was going to try and be you know, and I think we've tried to be, you know, be balanced as well, you know, where we look at both sides of the aisle and try and be respectful of people's opinions and that type of thing. But the one thing I will say is, you know, and it's not just Spectrum. I mean, we've seen this in I'm sure you've seen it, Zel and many games as well. I mean, the internet's a grumpy place.
Oh, it is, and it can get vicious.
Well, I even will say this, you know, like there are so many times, like just between YouTube and Reddit, you know, like I've made this joke to you a few times where I'll do this really nice like how-to video, like how to do this or how to do that or whatever, and on YouTube it's like, you know, I'll get like 100 likes. Just like, hey, you did a great job. Man, I put that thing on Reddit and it's just like, I couldn't downvote this thing enough. You know, if I could downvote this thing 39 times, I'd do it. It's like, what is so salty about Reddit? Why are you guys so salty here? You know, it always
but if you post a video on, you know, how this game, man, these guys completely suck, I'm never going to play that game again.
Oh, it's a million likes.
You know, how much praise that, you know, that particular video.
That's exactly. Anytime I post like something like some weird picture or something clipping into something, or it looks like the game is like, you know, got a glitch in it, those things absolutely do really well. If I actually try and do something positive, like, hey guys, did you know you could change your field of view in the Prospector HUD? It's like, I can't, you know, 1,000 downlikes for you. It's like, what the heck, you know? So it's
like, go away, scrub.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's like, you know, well, I think the one comment I got is like, the Prospector canopy's fine as it is. Why'd they give anybody the ability to change it for themselves is beyond me. It's like, what the heck, man? You know, oh my stars. It's like, you know, and so you do get that on the internet, and it's just one of those things, you know. It's like, you know, hey, man, a little customization goes a long ways, which is like, no, it doesn't. But, you know, so anyways, yeah, I think CIG found themselves in a spot where they, like I said, you know, if you kind of distill it down, and now that they made a mistake, they tried to correct it, they made another mistake trying to correct it, and then the community got it up at arms at each other. And at some point last night, Spectrum was really a get the popcorn kind of night. You know what I mean? It really was over its skis. And it actually looked at Spectrum a little bit more today, and it was, you know, it's still salty, but not nearly as much as salty as it was yesterday. But, you know, still, I mean, it's pretty bad.
To be honest, what probably needed to be done was they should have just hit the reset button and just gave everybody like $1 million.
Yep, exactly.
Or $1 million, you know, or like $2 million, you know, for everybody's, you know, to kind of compensate for, you know, the irritation. So, and let it roll and say, look, guys, man, sorry, you know, we made a mistake, and, you know, we're willing to compensate you for it. And, you know, we're going to give you, you know, a couple of $1 million, and hope we do better next time.
You know, so. Exactly. I mean, I agree with that. I think it should have just been a ka-chunk. You know, here's a whatever amount, and we're moving on. You know what I mean? Type of thing. And and I bet you they learned that lesson too. I have a feeling that they probably realize it's like, oh man, we shot ourselves in the foot here. Let's not ever do this again. Let's just kind of next time we're going to set kind of a hard and fast rule, and that's it. There's not going to be any kind of sliding scales or complicated math here. It's just going to be basically, ka-chunk. That's what you get, and you'll be okay with it. And I suppose really just quickly while we're on kind of the on the salty side of things, because we're not going to absolutely got some positive things to talk about with 3.17.2, but
let's get the negatives out of the way.
Yeah, we'll get the negatives out of the way. I mean, you'd think the thing that they were people, instead of being salty about the money, it would be maybe looking at that. And I think you pointed it out earlier more than anything is like, it's so funny because you pointed it out, and I think I was reading something else when you first pointed it out, but then I started listening to what you were saying, and then I pulled it up and I started looking. I'm like, you're absolutely right. It's like, you pointed out kind of like the thing people should be really kind of questioning is the known issues list for 3.17.2. Maybe a much much more fertile ground for some chin scratching.
Well, we talked about a few of these on the podcast in the past 2 months, and we even knew that they really were working hard to stomp out a few of them. One of our it's like one of our biggest gripes was whether the mole is working or not.
Yes.
So, and they finally sorted that out, which is awesome. And they sorted out the terminals in all the refinery stations. So that was a couple of our biggest little gripes. But we did talk about that they knew a lot of these, issues, and I thought it was going to be like, 2, 3, 4 at the most, that would carry over into 3.17.2. We talked about it a little bit, that some of the, they have plans on how these are going to get fixed, and a lot of it had to do with, a lot of the new server rollouts that they're going to do for 3.18. So we knew that there would be carryover, but holy cow, I didn't know that there was going to be this much carryover.
Well, and and some of them are, things that we've kind of, like you said, we've dealt with for a long time. And, and so I don't necessarily know that we need to go through it, piece by piece, but, there were certainly a couple of them in there that were, wow, I wish you guys would have, potentially fixed that, before the next, kind of 90 days.
Well, especially with, what we're going to talk a little bit about tonight with, up in the server count. And, the first one on that list is party invite group launch, is still a known issue.
And that's caused us, if we've had groups, ranging from just a handful of us to say 20, 25 people, and you can't, you kind of get into the situation where 3 or 4 people, nobody can be grouped. 3 or 4 people have to log on, and just maybe they get different servers and then look how many people are on the server. And then you kind of got to click and join and reform the party. And,
yeah,
and it takes a while, it does take a little while. And the other side of it is there are many times, like even in the game, where you kind of lose pips and have to reform the party just so people can see each other. So, for a game, it's definitely, that's one that you'd hope that maybe they could, kind of work out, because it does. You're really making a great point. If you're up in the server count, the idea is more people can play together. I think it's going to be one of those things where, we're going to continue to have to do that. People are going to have to log into individual servers, kind of get a head count and how many you have with you, and then have people kind of right click and join on that person who's got the lowest server count, and then form the group after you kind of get into the game. So, a lot of the kind of the preform stuff, trying to launch everybody into the same server, that type of thing is just not there.
That's right. And if you guys like the salt, make sure that you subscribe. Give this a thumbs up. And if you are legitimately salty, man, let us know in the comments. Let us talk it out, man. Let's hash it out.
Yeah.
Let's give it a little talk.
I know everybody who's listened to us must know that we absolutely adore Star Citizen, the project and everything. So you might catch, if you just came into this on the middle, you're like, these guys are bashing the game. It's like, no, we're really not. We don't want to, but it was kind of a, the known issues list was fairly, there was a few of them in there. It's like, oh man, and they said they weren't going to fix them all. Of course they, and some of these I'm sure probably they don't want to put the time into fixing them because it's all going to change later. So fixing it now necessarily between now and 120 days doesn't matter.
Well, let's give it a little positive here. Speaking to the group launch, those things are things that affect us because we usually try to log into the game with a big group. So, that definitely does affect us. It's a known issue. It doesn't mean that it is an issue that comes up all the time.
Right.
If I was going to put it in, more of a positive spin, we've seen lately with folks like, Morphologist and, a few of these other folks that are, logging in huge groups. Like the deal with Morphologist, those cats were able to log 114 people in at one time and then put them all on an 890, which is fantastic, very exciting, so in that sense, let's I guess leave with the positive on that.
Let's celebrate. I mean, it is nice to see that many more people in the server. And I know that one of our friends and I, in the 3.17 PTU, like right before it went live, we did a little bit of the Siege of Orison. And there was well over 100 people on that server. And I was really surprised with how first of all, you're in Orison. And then there's an event, and then there's more people on the server as well. And for the most part, the server behaved pretty good. So you're absolutely right. They're absolutely making headway. More resources are available, and they obviously some optimizations are in place because they're able to kind of do more all of a sudden.
Right. In the rest of these, I'm sure a lot of us have kind of read through the patch notes, but with a lot of these kind of known issues, we know that they're bugs and they pop up when it's most inconvenient for us, right? So that's usually when the bugs happen, right? When they're the most inconvenient times is when these bugs particularly happen. Stuff like the 30K, we've been dealing with that for a while. This is kind of a wild little bug, but ship's targeting pip may be missing or disappear. We saw that pop up, one or two times along the way.
One of the ones that kind of got my attention was weapon fire penetrates shields when ships are moving.
Yeah, that's so, guys, if you're PvPing, just make sure that you're on the move. We see a little bit of these, and a lot of them are more or less, just kind of annoyances more than, seriously game-breaking ones. I mean, we know that, the Argo raft elevators, that they've been kind of messed up for a little while now. Yeah. I think it's 3.17. The very first 3.17, I think since then was when those were a little messed up. So we knew that was a thing, and we saw the thing with the Starfare. We saw ships kind of doing a cocking sideways and snapping weird, and we seen those things pop up. We knew the medical beacons were still kind of a little janky at times. You know, holding weapons weird while you're EVAing, you know, it's just, you know, that's just kind of a weird look. It doesn't break anything. It's just kind of, you know, it's one of those little annoyances. And you know, we've all done bunker missions where the AI weren't there. You know, the NPCs weren't there when you got there. So that is pretty daggum annoying, especially if you're trying to complete it. You know, in the rest of these, you know, one of those things, I've had it a couple times where I just went and bought a whole new set of brand new armor to get ready for something and log out, and was going to log in, you know, when we were about to get started, and logged in and all my stuff was gone. You know, all the armor, all my weapons, everything. And yeah, yes, that is pretty daggum annoying. And, you know, kind of makes you go, you know, say a few little choice things as you're running down the corridor going, damn it, I gotta go buy new armor. So, you know, a lot of these things that are annoyances are still kind of in. You know, it's quite a little lengthy list, and like you said, we're not going to go through them all. But, you know, I guess the positives are a lot of the, you know, really egregious game-breaking bugs. They worked really hard on that. You know, most of these things, I think they already have an idea of how they're going to address them in 3.18. So, you know, with all the new server stuff, a lot of this stuff's going to get fixed, hopefully. And I can say, man, if we had a bet that what day that, you know, what time that the patch was going to re-released, I can pat myself on the back.
No, it's true. I mean, it's so funny. Zel and I, you know, kind of had been debating, right? And I think I was somewhere as far as, you know, we had talked about all leading up to the patch, and, you know, I thought for sure, you know, I wouldn't say for sure, but I mean, I thought, you know, that patch is probably going to be around the 22nd or 23rd, and Zel was always pretty consistently around the 27th, 28th. You know, was when he said it was he nailed it, you know, so is kind of a running joke between us or whatever. It's,
yeah.
You know, that was definitely right, you know, could not, I mean, it was 2 or 3 weeks, 4 weeks before, so, you know, pretty accurate, and, you know, I will say, the one thing I will say, July was a little weird with the extra long free fly and that type of thing. And it turned out, I mean, it looked like they needed as much time as they needed to work out as much as the stuff they did, you know. I mean, I really want to, you know, turn towards some of the positives for 3.17, and I think you're probably in that same boat. I mean,
that's exactly what I was going to say.
You know, like, because
let's get to the stuff that you liked.
Right, exactly. I think, you know, obviously, we wanted to address the elephant in the room, and I think we did that, and then, of course, we wanted to talk about, just like I said, you know, kind of some, you know, while we were there, we might as well, you know, instead of kind of while we're circling the drain a bit, might as well kind of stay in there. Well, you know, kind of lifting up out of that stuff. I mean, I do think it's a win, an absolute win.
Let's set everybody's expectations low and then try to bring them up on the back.
Exactly. I think it's a huge win to have more players on the server, and I think that there's some, you know, some expectation of, you know, being able to see a few more people. You know, I think I logged in today and it was 75. I don't know if that's something that they're toying with a little bit. I don't know if it's stuck at 75 or if, you know, some servers are spinning up with a little more or a little less. But I do think it's an important thing to be able to start adding more players to the game. And I mean, at some point, you know, on particular shards or servers, you know, we all know that, you know, we're certainly looking for a number we were always looking for a number that was significantly more than 50.
Yeah. Well, you know, the positives in that is the fact that, you know, for big orgs, big groups, you know, if you wanted to, as it relates right now, and even when they, you know, implement a lot of the new server stuff, you know, a lot of this stuff is going to be is going to be sharded out. So being able to, get all your friends, or, get most of your org into one server, is going to be pretty awesome. That way, you know, you can start out, especially when we have like these big mining, we have these big mining events, and a lot of these people want to come along. Is that that definitely allows us to get more people in the server, and to go in as big groups. So that part of it's going to be awesome, and that the fact that the server, basically it'll spin up a new section to the server, or they shard it out where you can get these bigger groups in. That's going to be great, moving forward. So those are all positive things. And then when we get persistence, and then you get the persistence entity streaming, where you can kind of start spreading the load across all the different servers, whether it's for each planet streaming its own server, and things like that, where you can definitely start getting a lot more people in the same area. So, but in the same token, what's it going to look like in the future? I guess that's what we're going to talk about a little bit. So,
yeah, for sure. One of the things that is, just kind of, as we kind of begin talking about, I will say, for all of our mining friends out there, they did talk about a new lootable item. I don't know if you caught that in the release notes either. A Gray Cat Arrow backpack collector. So hey, I mean, just I wanted to throw that out there as we were kind of chatting about. As I was kind of looking over the notes a little bit here, and I was like, hey, whoa, I want to throw this out there. If anybody, I don't know, have you seen anything about that?
Yeah, we've seen it before. Remember, I showed it to you.
Now that was that a gray cat? But was that a Gray Cat Arrow?
That was that salvage one. It didn't. They put those in right at the last little bit. They didn't even have the real names. Basically, it just had a code on it.
Oh, I didn't realize that was an arrow piece though. It seemed like more of like a legacy piece. Oh, that's interesting then. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. So a lot of that with the specialty armors and things like that. A lot of them were in those loot boxes for a little while. I mean, to the point where they weren't, the note on them just basically, I just basically had a code, as an asset number on it in the note. So, they weren't even. It was actually kind of wild. I didn't expect them to get that stuff out, which was funny. They came out, and then they, mentioned that they were gonna be released, and I was like, man, they already released a lot of this stuff. So,
yeah.
In the loot table, I don't know if it was, if they were supposed to release that stuff in the loot table or not, but some of those loot boxes actually had some of that stuff. So
yeah, I mean, it's funny because a lot of the bug fixes and stuff, as they list them here, it's kind of like a cumulative thing for going back for a little while, so at some point they must have snuck those in there, and and because you definitely had one. For sure, because I was like, man, that thing is sweet. I like that thing, So
yeah, when we first saw it, I guess that's the thing that kind of threw it off a little bit. When we first saw it, we thought it was, it looked like a legacy, like you're saying, it looked like a legacy piece where it was what Gray Cat used to look like.
Yeah, well, it's the retro, exactly, because they showed like these retro spacesuits and retro things like that, and so that's what it honestly looked like to me. It was some kind of a retro backpack.
And since it didn't have a description of what it was, it just basically had that loot table code on it. We thought it was very retro looking. We're like, oh, look at this. So maybe it was an item that was, released before it was prime time. So yeah, it was cool to see. But what was our point?
Well, I just think we were talking. We kind of. Here's what our point really was. I mean, we were just talking about some of the wins in 3.17.2, and one of the other ones I wanted to talk about real quick. Of course, we talked about the servers working better with 3.17.2 with more people on it. The ability to maybe get more. It's going to provide more wiggle room to put more people on there. And just thought, I kind of got lost on that fact that they mentioned the one item. But there was another item that I think is going to kind of add some interesting combat with the 3.17.2, and that's the Centurion as well. I think that we've talked about that one a little bit, but I think that's that definitely is going to fill a niche that needed to be filled.
Oh, for definitely for ground warfare. A lot of the we did have the Javelin, and it had surface-to-air missiles, but it wasn't able to.
The ballista.
The ballista, yeah, not the Javelin, but the ballista.
Yeah, no worries.
Right. But when ships got close, they were useless. So, yes, as it relates to ground warfare, yes, it does serve a purpose. And, we're all about the more ground vehicles, the better. But we also talk about what function does a ship or a ground vehicle provide at this particular time? And is it worth, having it in the game at this particular time? It was something that they definitely snuck in, but I still feel like it fills a role. So in that aspect, for us, talking about whether that thing fills a role and is it worth getting, yeah, I think it fills a role. I think it's worth having. Would you spend real life coin on it? Absolutely not.
Oh, all the ground vehicles seem like they would, and even the trusty old ROC. I mean, these are things that they're just not very expensive in game.
Yep.
So I mean,
I most definitely would rather buy a Cuddy Black package for $110 than to spend $110 on this thing.
Yeah.
So,
or a prospector for $155. I mean, that's
exactly.
I mean, that's just exactly. I think that way you can go ahead and buy every once you know how to run your prospector in a couple of days, you can buy every ground vehicle.
If there's there's only been a handful of ships that we ever advocated that you spend real currency on, your hard-earned dollars on, is that the prospector is definitely one. It is something that or at least another year and a half, 2 years, that this game is going to be in its development state, just like this week and just like 3.18 and for that matter 4.0. Things might slow up a little bit more on they've come out before saying, hey, look, we don't want to do wipes if we don't have to. But with all this new tech coming in the next 6 months, we definitely know there's going to be a wipe. And to that end, prospector, most definitely the best bang for the buck that you can have if you are consistently wanting to play the game in this state. It just gives you a head start on, in the game by making money.
Absolutely couldn't agree more.
That's right. You can go out, spend 3 hours in the prospector, and start buying ships. In a couple of weeks, you can have a pretty sizable fleet and be happy. And I feel like it's an awesome jumpstart tool from starting from scratch.
I could not agree more. I mean, there's not a ship that fundamentally could have and really, I mean, we want to preface it with you should enjoy mining. I mean, or certainly if it's just something, if you absolutely do not, just don't want to mine or don't like mining, certainly don't buy it. But if you do like industrial gameplay and you're looking for something that's just basically going to print you money once you know how to use it. At least for now, I mean, and that could change someday. There's certainly, who knows, salvage, could become very profitable, or, there's a variety of other game loops that may be more profitable. I enjoy mining, so it's a really easy thing for me to advocate for. But as far as real, like you said, real dollars, that what's going to provide you kind of, a path forward or whatever, it's really hard to argue against the prospector for sure.
No, and truly. And, if you're wanting a ship with modularity, Retaliator base.
Retaliator base is a really solid one.
Yeah. So, there's a few other, and, this particular episode isn't that, because, well, holy cow, we could really go down the rabbit hole on it.
Yeah.
But just getting those little head starts rolling, absolutely, Prospector is the way to go.
Other little gameplay changes in 3.17.2. I thought I would just kind of run through a few just to kind of bounce them off you. What do you think about the size 1 hangers? What's your thoughts on those versus the pads? And I have a little trick I want to talk about the pads afterwards as well.
Well, I like it.
I do too.
I think it solves a lot of issues. The fact that there also, a lot of these stations that we spend a lot of time on, having, multiple, landing bays is a big thing. I mean, and it helps the game engine a little bit too. I don't know if you've noticed, but just playing around, even when we're playing in the PTU, I noticed that, getting a landing bay a lot faster than it, had been. It seems a lot of times that ATC kind of gets jammed up with calls, when people are calling for pads. It could take forever for it to acknowledge that you're even there. So people keep hitting the ATC button, and I've been guilty of it myself. And it just kind of, lengthens the amount of time, the call time, because it puts itself in some sort of weird little loop where it thinks it doesn't, however that stuff was working. It seems like they kind of sorted that out now with having, a lot more docking.
Well, and I think I was talking to you, Zel, when we talked about, when that ship is inside that hangar and the doors are closed, when somebody else comes up on the station, it doesn't have to draw that stuff. You don't, it's not worried about you being able to see the ship or see the person around the ship. It seems like it's probably at the end of the day a little less resource intensive. When people go into hangars and the doors close, you know what I mean? As opposed to maybe having 20 or 30 ships kind of, not that we've ever seen that, but 20 ships or something on pads. If it was busy or whatever, it would probably be a significant more cost than 20 ships in hangars for the person who is flying up to the station. As far as I'm sure, if we were to kind of have that on some kind of a metric where you could see how much resources, RAM or however it works, compute units or whatever, how much memory or that type, it's probably significantly less if you had a bunch of ships in hangars as somebody approaches the station versus a bunch of ships on pads. That's got to draw all the individual little pieces for those.
Yeah.
For optimizations as well.
Absolutely. And, I don't know if I articulated it very well, but truly, it's a lot faster process. I thought about that a little bit the other day or the other night, when we used to, fly in by the skin of our teeth, where we stayed a little bit longer on the planet or wherever than we should have, because they're like, well, hold on a second, I'm almost done breaking this one too. Pick it up.
Right, exactly. That happens when you're
we're,
quarantining.
we're like watching the clock, going, oh man, all right, we're down to 5 minutes. We gotta go. And getting to the platform, by the skin of our teeth, and how that's going to affect, the game in the future, where, those pads, there's a couple of people already parked on the pads, and you got to call a hanger, like, come on, man, open up, hurry. That definitely is a thing. We're going to have to at least, put a time buffer in, it's like hit that point of no return. All right, man, we've hit 6 minutes. That's a point of no return. So,
the one thing I will say, and I just wanted to say about the pads, and for those of you who maybe are listening out there, there still are pads at stations. Not, and I don't have an exhaustive list, but, the ones where I've seen pads, like ARC L1 still has pads, CRU L1 still has pads. There are still pads, and they actually still work really. Like, if you land on one of those pads, the other day when I was streaming, I was coming into CRU L1. I had 17 SCU Quantanium. I had found a not a great rock that didn't break up great either, and so it was a perfect time to try. But I actually landed on one of the pads. And I was able to post, meaning like I was able to repair, refuel, and rearm on the pad. I got out of the ship, I ran down. It would not allow me to store it, but then I ran down to the refinery, and I was able to throw things in the refinery, which was interesting. It recognized it as being on pad 1. When I ran back to the prospector on pad 1, I went inside there, and the alarm was on, like I hadn't actually refined all the stuff out of it. So, there's still a few bugaboos to work out there, but I will say that if you are doing refuel, rearm, repair, or if you're doing something where you just want to land, those pads are actually kind of interesting. You do not have to call for a landing. You can absolutely land on the pad and get out and run and say, maybe go get a drink of water and come back, and not necessarily have anything to, like, you don't have to like go inside a hangar and back out of a hangar. So just a tip or a trick I thought I'd let people know. There are pads there, and they still do work.
What do you think about the elevators? It was something that, we were noticing in the PTU with the elevators on stations. It seems like the elevators at the cities, like Area 18, Orison, and Lorville, all seem to be working like they used to.
Same pace.
Yep. But it seems like the elevators at the stations are going a little quick.
They are.
What's your feeling about that?
I want to start with the positives. Number one, they're not killing me.
That is a positive. And I haven't seen the elevator appearing outside of where it's supposed to be.
No, they're not physicalizing outside
from behind you. And
they were
kicked you out the door.
I mean, I will tell you, in 3.17 and 3.17, they were absolutely deadly. I mean, there was a running joke in my stream, like and just in general, I mean, I would click that button and run for my life. I mean, I would literally run back out into the void outside of the blue screen. Like, if there's that kind of that force shield type looking screen when you come in off a pad, and there's that blue thing that it allows you to run right through it. But I'd literally click the button and run behind it and wait outside in the void until till the elevator would come. So it is nice that they don't kill you anymore. So that, I think that's that is a nice quality of life improvement. They are very fast, and so the one thing I will say is, if I'm just perfectly honest with myself, it doesn't bother me that much that they're that fast. But it wouldn't bother me, like, I know for some people, and I think you've mentioned it. I actually seen Dig that, Dig had mentioned as well. It's immersion killing for him. Yes. I can appreciate that. You know what? It makes sense to me why it would be immersion killing. And I'm not if they wanted to, kind of take the speed that it used to be, and the speed that it is now, and find some happy medium, I would be okay with it. You know what I mean? I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it being as fast. It doesn't bother me as much, but they are kind of close the door and open the door, and it's like, holy they are very, very fast, and they certainly could be slowed down, and it wouldn't bother me at all.
Yeah, a lot of people may say that it's kind of a convenience thing for them, or whatever the case may be. But if you're going to go through the trouble of building the game in such a way where it is emblematic of real life, or just a big open sandbox sim that you want things to react the way it would in the real world. So if not, then why not just give me a teleporter pad and teleport me into the space station?
Fair, yeah, that's a good point.
So yeah, it is kind of immersion breaking for me. And one of the things that we kind of like about this game is that you can kind of suspend your belief and feel like you're actually in the game for a little while. But it's not the biggest thing for me. But it is a little gripe, I guess, that I'm pretty sure that they'll probably address it. I don't see them. Could they have been a little quicker? Yeah, maybe. That ride down to the refinery used to take a hot minute. So
it did, and so yeah, I mean, improving the speed a little bit would be fine, and I, like I said, if they wanted to kind of go back, to find some happy medium between where they used to be and where they're at now, that wouldn't bother me at all. I think it would make sense. I mean, the first time I went to 3.17.2 PTU, it's so funny because I used to, use the elevators as, as those opportunities to say grab a sip of coffee or kind of that type of thing. I reached for the coffee cup, went to pull it up to my lips, and I didn't even get it out, man. I didn't get it out. Didn't even have a chance to get it there, So I was like, hey, these things are exceedingly fast. So,
it's these little breaks in the action that we, take opportunities to, heck, when I set a course for Microtech or Crusader, I know I have time to get up and make a cup of tea or, sandwich or whatever else and go, hey, I'm not there yet. Heck, today, I was flying back from, I had to roll up to Microtech to grab some stuff, and I was flying back to Arc L1, and I was able to go in there and help my wife, in the kitchen for a minute, and I knew that I had time. Came back, and I was still about 5 million kilometers out. So yeah, we do, at least for me, I do like those little breaks in the action, and I like things, and to have those distances, and things are going to be a lot, you think these distances are now. There's another little thing too. Let me finish my point, and I'll also bring it back up. But is that you think flying from Microtech to Arc L1 seems long? Well, you just wait till Pyro gets here, because that's almost going to quadruple in distance. So if you don't like that long flights, man, you're definitely not going to like how things are going to go in the future. But I do kind of like the long flights. I feel like it gives distance a little weight to actually mean something and things like that. But that being said, I was flying around in the Ion in the other day, and that I don't know if they have it overtuned, but holy cow, man! I think, and it's with stock engines. I didn't even change out the engines in it. We were sitting there talking, and I drove from Area 18 to Lorville. We were basically talking. I was trying to get some of one of the cool things I thought was really good was a lot of my key bindings and stuff were still set. And I thought I was going to go in and have to redo my joysticks and my key bindings and all that jazz. And I was going in there and looking, and hey, man, all that stuff was still good. And we literally talked about that for 2 minutes. And the next thing I know, I closed my screen down from the options, and I was already at Hurston. I was like, holy shit, how in the heck did I get here so fast? And, I was talking with the guys in the chat. I'm like, dude, we were chatting for like 2 minutes. How am I already here? So.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And same thing, when I flew back from Crusader back to Arc L1 in the Ares, and it seemed like it took a way shorter time than it normally does. So
yeah, I actually had the Ion out the other night. Now that you're thinking about it, I agree. They do have a good, that whatever that base drive is, and I'm not sure which one it is, but it's a good one.
Yeah, it's really fast. I don't, I've had the Ares for a while, and I just don't remember it being that quick. Maybe it's just me, haven't played in a couple weeks solid, so maybe it just feels different to me. I don't know. It just seemed like that particular ship is actually way faster than it used to be. So
well, and I'll tell you, I had the Ion. I think it must be the subscriber ships or something, the Inferno and the Ion or something recently, or for whatever reason I had the Ion or whatever. And I took that out the other night, and I just was like, oh wow, I've never flown this thing. I'm gonna take it for a flight, and I think I flew over and was gonna do a bounty mission, and I think I flew to Hurston. And then I had the situation where it's like I had to go do the like the first kind of very easy whatever it is, 500 entry fee kind of thing to crack into the bounty hunting game.
Oh yeah,
and it was like I had to go to Calliope, so I flew her to Calliope, and then I got there, and I'm just like, I engaged these two guys, and I begin shooting at them. They're just tearing me. It's like an Aurora and a Gladius, and they're just tearing me up. I'm like not hitting them at all, and I'm just like, I can see my number dropping, but I definitely don't see any like animation of like me shooting at all. So I finally just flew out of there and headed back to Michael 1, I think it was, and I landed and just looked at my ship. It didn't even render in the gun. That's the problem here. It didn't render.
You told me about that, man.
It didn't render in the gun, man. I get my butt kicked, and I was like, and I literally was pulling the trigger, and I definitely 100% was not seeing any kind of animation. But it was like, but my count was going down like I was shooting. So I was just like, what is going on? And I went and looked, and it was just one of those things. I was like, oh man, it's just, and there are little things that, like, I laughed about it, but it was a situation where it's just like, man, that's rough,
Yeah, that is rough, brother.
It was the easiest one, and I was just getting torn up by the Aurora and Gladius.
Considering that basically all the ship is one big gun. So,
but I'll tell you, the atmospheric bounty hunting things are a significantly different level than. I think the ships. I do think it's interesting how the ships perform differently in the atmosphere, and it's a different ball game. Something like an Aurora or something like a Gladius, they move pretty good in the atmosphere, and the Ion wasn't. Even just lining at people up. Even though I wasn't shooting them, I will say it was. It was an interesting thing. Now I'm sure once you kind of hit them, it does a lot of damage, but. It's
if you're hitting people with that Ion, you're taking chunks off. So this thing is designed to it's a capital ship killer. So that's one of the reasons the thing got nerfed and salted the community a little bit. So and I can see both sides of that as well.
I can too.
Since they hyped it up as being this, thing, and they release it, and but anybody that's ever played any MMO or any other game, sometimes the tuning comes on them after the fact.
Yeah.
And when it gets into the player base, you got two sides of that coin. Anytime that you've ever done Battlegrounds, or we've played World of Tanks a little bit.
It's funny, I was about to say the exact same thing. It's a cautionary tale, right?
Right. And you find out when it gets into a bigger player pool. People know how to use it better than others, and so you're out seal clubbing people.
Well, and then World of Tanks, I mean, it's a
little salt that they're getting seal clubbed.
It's the perfect example, though. I mean, World of Tanks, and you and I try to be as objective as possible about games and gaming and stuff. I truly believe a big part of their business model was introducing these overpowered vehicles and getting people to buy them and allowing them to seal club for to pad their stats, and then there would inevitably be like about 60 to 90 days after they release that tank a balance pass, and they might nerf it down into a little bit better than the other tanks, or sometimes they'd nerf it down to even worse than the other tanks, but they consistently did that. They did that on like so many different with so many different ones, and I seemed like I am guilty of this. They released I think it was a tier 9 Russian tank destroyer type of thing, and I remember I bought the thing, and I just was annihilating people with it, and I was a fairly okay at World of Tanks. I mean, but I wasn't I certainly wasn't somebody who was exceptionally good or whatever. I didn't have a super high win rate, but hopefully, I think I haven't seen them being super egregious with it, but I hope that they did learn their lesson a little bit. There's nothing wrong with tuning things, and that type of thing, but you don't want to have something come into the game and be so kind of tilted in a direction, then have a bunch of people scoop it up and then change it. I mean, it's not something you want. It's really not a long-term behavior pattern you want to repeat.
And, as it relates to, it's similar in its context, but, it's different in the fact that, as related to Star Citizen, I guess we started in on the, the Ion or the Ares. So if you wanted to say the Inferno or the Ion, but yeah, it was OP. They knew it was OP. It was supposed to be OP, but not.
They're one-shot Gladiuses and stuff.
Yeah, it's not in this setting, right? All this was supposed to be later down the road. A lot. It was supposed to be a lot more fleshed out than it is right now, and that's what it was set up for. And down the road, this is kind of a temporary measure for a lot of these people that kind of got pissed off about their Ions. Is that it was kind of a temporary measure when the combat rework comes back around, and it might be able to fulfill that function that it was supposed to fulfill to begin with, which was something that was like a capital ship sniper.
Right.
That's what the thing was designed for, is to snipe capital ships from a distance. It wasn't designed for dogfighting. So, these are kind of some more of these, little things that we were kind of talking about before, is that, in the state that the game's in now, it needs a certain amount of balance. So just being able to one-shot people, wasn't its intention or whatever. And same thing, if we were speaking about World of Tanks. Now, when you buy the premium tanks, if you buy it out of their store, we call them, colloquially, we call them gold tanks. But, those are the things that, they had to get right, because once you released something that you purchased, and these tanks are, $50, they're $50 per tank. and on average, some of them are cheaper, whatever. But once you released them, people was like, well, man, this is how you advertise, and I spent money on it. So they couldn't really mess with those too much. Once they were released, they were released. That's how they were going to be. So they never tinkered with those too much. Now, one thing that I can say, I used to have a Chinese medium tank, which was called the Type 59. Now, that thing used to be OP back in the day, back in the beginning, where, it was heavily armored, had a great rate of fire, and was very mobile. Your turret armor was almost impenetrable.
Well, and when it first came out, I mean, I'm sorry, I was running around in the tier 3. It got this weird preferential treatment where, it just murdered people.
But they nerf that. That's about the only gold tank that they actually nerfed was the Type 59, and then you ran into a community that wasn't very happy about it, so they have not touched the gold tank since. So if they release a gold tank and it's OP, well, it's just going to have to stay OP. But all the other tanks that they do release, whether if they're if there are tech tree tanks, tanks that you work your way up to, they balance those all the time, because they were over the years they've released a ton of tanks that was severely OP, which is kind of funny. I don't know if Star Citizen will ever come to this point, but they used to have this British tank destroyer, which was colloquially called the Death Star, because it literally could one-shot a tier 10 tank. Boom, dead. 2,000 damage, boom, just like that. And so instead of nerfing it, they just removed it from the tech tree. Same thing they did with a German tank destroyer.
Yeah,
it's called a Waffle Tractor.
Yeah, you couldn't see that thing.
Yep, and back in the day, and it was an autoloader, so it had like 5 rounds in its magazine, and each round did about 700 damage. You could severely mess people up.
Well, if you had a good crew in that thing, I mean, even with the scout tank, you would you drive very close to the thing, but it would not light up.
Yeah,
and the thing would they just light up. They just light people up with that thing.
So they took it straight out of the game and they replaced it with the grill. So it's a thing, and the funny thing about that is, going back to like the Death Star, they came up with this idea with a lot of tanks that they nerfed back in the day, or just totally took out of the tech tree, where they put it in. They came up with this idea and they built this whole narrative around it, of the black market. And the black market was these black marketeers that went and stole the technology, and now you could buy it from them. So they would have the black market come up every year around February, where you had to log in at these weird hours, like for us, because this is all in Russian time. So you had to log in early in the morning if you wanted to participate in the black market, log into the game, and spin. A lot of them are based on auctions. So you'd have to spend, some of these really OP tanks that you haven't seen in years. They just stopped making them. You were able to buy them either with in-game credits, which was in the millions, or real life money, in the form of gold. So you had to buy a bunch of gold up to purchase these items, and one of those particular tanks was the Death Star, where you could buy it back for it's going for like 25 million credits. And then you had some of these other tanks, which was like the M22, which was another Russian medium tank. That was so OP, they took out the tech tree. And they brought it back last year, where people were spending like $400 or $500, in gold to buy that tank in games.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and that's, it's such a perfect example. I mean, and really, it's one of those things, right? It's one of the other types of games that has this selling the ships as a business model type of thing, and so, I mean, I will just speak very. I'll tell you, like my Type 59 story really quickly. I played World of Tanks very early, and but the Type 59 had already been kind of released. It seems like it was already released and was a thing when I first started playing, or I didn't buy it. One of the two.
It was very early on.
Incredibly early on.
Yeah, it was, because I bought it. It was 2011 or 12 when I bought the Type 59. So it was after its release here in the United States.
But when they first introduced that thing, it got incredibly preferential preferential matchmaking.
Well, one of the things about matchmaking in the early days, which was it was really, really hard for a lot of people, because you would, it's not like it is today where you had tier 10 and you had a -2 matchmaking, so you could only go as far down as 2 levels, or only
right. Like, for instance, there are some tier 8 tanks that have preferential matchmaking that will only see tier 8, right?
Or tier 9. They only go one up.
Right. So. And then like you said, there are some tier 10 matches, or there are some times where I think the worst treatment is, it's like you could be a tier 8 that's in a tier with tier 10s, right? Is that, I mean, if you're playing like a non-preferential treatment.
Yeah,
it seemed like at the time,
back in the day, they didn't have that.
Yeah, Type 59 could
be a tier 3 tank,
right?
And with like the higher tiers, and you're like, you're not going to scratch these fucking tanks. It was pretty lopsided.
That's what I mean. I mean, I hate the Type 59, because that thing used to run around and like there was no way to penetrate it. I mean, even if you got a direct hit on it, it just and I probably bounced 9 million shots in that thing. Of course, what I was shooting at it with was always low tier. And I mean, the one thing that was funny though, of course, I very much respected the Type 59, and eventually it seems like there was a weird Christmas game where like you kind of did missions and somehow got boxes or something or another, gift boxes or something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Where eventually I ended up getting a Type 59 in one of those. Like, I opened up a box and there was a Type 59 and there's like, oh, this is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things that they stopped about 4 years into the game. They stopped selling the Type 59. You couldn't buy it anymore.
Right, but it became kind of legend, and because of people had such incredible win rates. Well, one of the reasons they had such incredible win rates is because, the worst thing you were going to face in that match was another Type 59, back in the day. I mean, they just ran amok with them. And, I mean, I was always kind of honestly, more of a heavy tank player who realized that medium tanks were really the alpha in the game, if done correctly, and of course, scouting and, I mean, tank destroyers are, have their place too.
But, it's kind of one of those things, like I said, one of these days I am definitely going to write my Psychology of Gamers, write the book about the psychology of gamers, because, I find it pretty interesting about, the choices, the gameplay choices, that you choose in games, says a lot about your personality type.
That's an interesting point. Yeah. Anyway, just kind of finalizing that. I know we've kind of gone down the World of Tanks rabbit hole, The last thing I want to say is about World of Tanks, which was interesting, and one of the things that I think, kind of pivoting back to what Star Citizen, I hope, wants to avoid, and this has to do with like the Ares of the Ion. You don't want every ship in the verse the Ares of the Ion. You just, that, and that's what happened with World of Tanks. I mean, sometimes they'd release a tank And you would literally go into matches, and there'd be, I think it was 15 tanks aside, and there'd literally be like 29 tanks were all the same. And you were the one guy who was not in that tank, maybe. Or, there was somebody who wasn't in that tank, but, I have seen lots of times where literally, and it came in, it came and went in World of Tanks, but literally, like for a couple of days, every single match was almost all, it was always all those tanks.
Yeah, people, everybody wants the new hotness.
Right.
So, and, Star Citizen is like that in the degree is, there's always going to be a meta. What's the new hotness?
Exactly.
So, it's one of the things a lot of people that have played games for a long amount of time knows that, they taketh and they giveth away. So,
well, and that's the thing. I mean, people who are running around with ions, and Ares, and who are able to just kind of one shot or kill little fighters, and who argued about not nerfing that. Someday when the Polaris, or one of those ships get in there, if they can just turn it at you and just, they're a great big ship, but they are maneuverable, and like an Idris is maneuverable enough to get its big gun on you and just one shot you. You're going to be like, hey, this isn't cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah, one shot people rail guns. Imagine when that that comes around.
Right. So I mean, there has to be a situation where you can't have. The only thing you're going to have is a bunch of people in Bengals that are super maneuverable, one-shotting each other. Yeah. That's kind of it's one of those things like the old that old cartoon when like Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner or something or whatever would run and get bigger and bigger and bigger things.
Oh yeah. Well, it's like I said. The devs they giveth and they taketh away.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but really, it's kind of all around balance. Eventually everything will get balanced. It's, you always are going to want to one up yourself. That's just the way it is. And it's always you see it with a lot of games. We saw it with World of Tanks that, it's always the legacy ships that, always kind of, get pushed, keep getting pushed back in the meta because you're always wanting to one up yourself as a game developer. So when you release these new ships to make them, exciting and appealing, you're going to want to give them, really cool and great abilities. So, you always will have that. You always will have the ones that are the metas. And and then eventually everything will get balanced.
You and I talked. It's a little bit like you and I talked a little bit about this when we were talking about the Odyssey versus the Carrack. You release the Carrack and you think, wow, it would have been really cool if we'd have put this, or this on there. It's like, oh yeah, we'll do that next time. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Well, and I guess the thing is, and I know that things that we've seen from CIG, they're fairly cognizant of that, where they know they have to go back and redo and bring a lot of these legacy ships back up to standards, like the Constellations and a lot of these other old ships, where they basically have kind of are going to add a lot of the new stuff that they learned along the way to a lot of these legacy ships, and if they can kind of keep up with that. Starfare, another example where that first iteration, they know that the layout was a little jank.
Yeah.
So they're gonna, they definitely want to go back and fix that. And ships like the RSI, where they were wanting to put the put an elevator closer to the bridge, that type of thing, where you didn't have to run through 6 doors to get to the cockpit. But you're going to definitely, they're, going to learn a little bit as they go along. Same thing with what we're talking about with World of Tanks. They learned that a lot of this OP stuff can kind of get a little toxic. So they try to, balance it out as they go. And, CIG is going to do the same thing. So, to kind of, that wasn't our topic of today, but to kind of, to round out the topic is that, because we were talking about the ion, is that, yeah, you can have the new hotness. Just remember that it's always going to get balanced when you start one-shotting people. I know it feels great, and hey, I've been there, right? So, but we got to know that, we got to balance the game too, and you just can't go run around one-shotting people.
Well, it's just it's a lot of fun for the guy who pulls the trigger. It's not a lot of fun for the guy who gets shot.
Yeah, right.
It's just one of those
if
things.
You're running in something heavily armored, your shields are at full. You're like, and one shot, and you're like, son of a bitch. So yeah,
right. There's really there's no margin for error when you're being one shotted. You know what I mean? So it's just that's a bit of a yeah. And I think and we've talked about this before. They really want to do ship disabling instead of ship destroying, and all this. Especially for the salvage things and that type of thing. I don't know. I certainly understand if an Idris, winds up and shoots, a Pisces. That probably should be a one shot. I'm okay with it.
Oh, vaporized. Yeah. There's no, there won't even be anything to be.
Right. Exactly. and it's so, but I also know that, if you're in the Pisces, you should have, unless you're kind of, in the back sorting boxes or something, it shouldn't be that easy for them to get you with it, So, that.
Oh yeah, most definitely, because you're always going to have the bigger fish, the fact that, a Gladius is going to absolutely rip you a new one, turn a Pisces into Swiss cheese, and it kind of goes up from there. And at some point, the Gladius isn't going to be top dog anymore. It's going to be something else. So,
oh yeah, that's for sure.
And again, keeping up with the meta is fun, and if we can, you're always going to have the bigger fish, and you're always going to have the more powerful ship. That's just the way of the world, right? You're not. It's just like you walking out in front of a freight train. You're not. You shouldn't be under any illusions that you're going to stop a freight train. So, it's always going to be one of those things where there's always going to be something more powerful, and if you can, get your hands around it and be able to balance it in such a way that it's fun, then that's the accomplishment, right? Is when you can add all these things into it and then make something fun out of it. That's going to be the good part. And there's always going to be balance. It's a never-ending story. Any game that you ever played, even if you played WoW back in the day when it came to PvP, or even PvE content with, raiding or whatever else, it's a constant balancing act with when you add the variables of when you up the amount of gear you have, the character type and the abilities, and when you start adding compacting factors like trinkets and weapons and adding gems and things that up those variables, so don't necessarily know that what's going to be OP, and then once you find out that, oh shit, now hunter is the OP, so what's everybody do? Everybody starts leveling hunters.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and there's been so many times where whatever's the flavor of the month, that's the new hotness for some kind of a rotation for a particular class or whatever. Man, it is not long after where people will begin looking at how they can take advantage of that.
That's the fun. Everybody keeps up with what that class meta is. So when you have new patches and things, you have people like us that keep up with things and play the games in their tested state. That way we're going, ooh, wow, Shaman's going to be pretty awesome this year. And if you do this particular build, you're gonna do this type of DPS, and they're gonna be great. And everybody's like, ooh, I want a Shaman, so sorry, level up Shaman, or So it's the same thing with. It is a little bit different. I mean, we've spoken to the fact, especially when you spend, your hard-earned money on a game.
Yeah.
And you actually spend, over $200, or I think, what was the Ion, like $250 or something, and you spend that money on the game, and you do have a feeling of ownership. We talked about this a little bit before about, when you do spend that money, you actually you have that feeling of ownership, like I own this ship. So it's kind of a psychological thing where you feel like, oh wow, I bought the ship, and I'm using, they told me it was going to do this, and now it doesn't do that anymore. So yeah, that can be a kind of a bad feeling in a way.
I think it's very reasonable. I mean,
Yep.
if you if the fundamental capability of the ship changes, then yeah, I mean, I think that's something, and obviously they talk about that stuff, and we're all sensitive to the fact that things are going to change and there's going to be balance and stuff.
Oh yeah, and I guess that's the thing. That's the balance. But I can definitely sympathize with. Well, they sold it to me this way, but that's not how it is anymore.
No, we've all been there. That's exactly right. So
yeah,
I think we all can absolutely empathize with somebody who, and quite honestly, I didn't not to mention it. I mean, $250 is a lot of money. That's
sure.
that. Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize that's how much they were. I mean, not that it matters a whole lot, but yeah, I
think that's how much they were, if I'm remembering right.
No, you probably are, and it's like that is a lot of money. It'll be like, hey, man. And when they released them, I know the people who owned them were just loved every bit about.
Hey, they're a cool ship. I like them.
Ship.
I like them right now. So yeah, absolutely. I'm a big fan of Crusader ships. I love them. I can't wait till they start putting, adding more to the game.
So kind of last thoughts about 3.17.2, and then a couple of other things I wanted to chat about before we wrap up here.
Okay.
Anything else really? Is there anything else? I mean, because we kind of knew what was happening, and of course PTU, that type of thing. Any other surprises or anything that kind of caught you off guard about 3.17.2 or anything like that?
Well, probably the biggest surprise was, them up in the server cap. But we knew about that a couple weeks ago, and I'm trying to think of any other stuff. It was cool to see that that they built out that snake pit racetrack. That was pretty awesome.
Have you been over to that?
I haven't yet.
Neither have I.
haven't seen it yet. But it was awesome that some of the devs took their spare time to do that for the community.
I agree with that 100%.
I found that was pretty daggum awesome, man. So it just kind of shows you the passion that a lot of these, I'd say most part, all of the devs have to make this game really cool. Is when they see players interacting with their world, and and giving them ideas, it's like, oh wow, that's pretty great. Let's give these guys some assets to kind of help flesh this stuff. I feel like that's really awesome. It's something that that you're building the community, building stuff for the community as you go. So that's
yeah,
really great.
I think the more that they recognize things that that are kind of organic and in game, and it's like the Daymar Rally or these types of things, like people are doing this racetrack thing, and I agree 100%. The more Easter eggs and extras that they do like that, that's always just that's just a win. It's just a win for everybody. It's a win for the people who like the track, or who kind of found it originally, or started using it and building these organization events around it, or however, whatever organically manifested that thing, and they recognized it. It's like, if you want to endear yourself to your community, those are the types of things that you want to do, and those that stuff like that's a major win. I couldn't agree more.
Oh yeah, I mean, and I think people take even Jumptown. I think people take for granted that it was something that the devs recognized that people were doing, and added it into the game. So I think people take that for granted now. So when a lot of the devs see everyone out doing, we kind of see it like this. It was funny. Some of our big things, we love to make these little games up along the way inside Star Citizen. So we're always making things up. That's some more of the funner things. We were kids and you got in onto the neighborhood, and summertime, we used to make these games up, and those were the most fun games ever. And same thing with being inside the game is making these games up inside the game, and having CIG recognize that.
I agree.
Actually,
yep. But well, I think we covered that really well.
I don't know about surprises, man. So,
one of the things that you mentioned, which I thought would be kind of fun to end on, and just kind of as an homage to moving forward, right? Is you happen to watch the? I think it was a Star Citizen Live that had the River Tech on it, or Inside Star Citizen.
Yep, Inside Star Citizen.
Yeah, and I know I caught a little bit of that too. I couldn't remember which one it was. I know I've kind of really been kind of distracted this week, but yeah, you and I have spoken about kind of how the pipeline, the building this pipeline is so important, for them to be able to kind of figure out all these other systems at some point, and I just thought it would be fun to kind of speak to you mentioned how you really enjoyed the River Tech kind of pipeline that they built there, and I thought that you made some really good points on it, and maybe you'd want to speak on that just a touch.
Yeah, as it relates to the planetary tech pipelines, I thought them showing off what they had so far as it related to River Tech was pretty fantastic. This new toolkit that developers have been designing was pretty fantastic. Being able to have the game engine recognize the topography of these planets. If you were wanting to kind of, take the tool and you kind of stretch it out, it has the ability to be able to see where you have drop downs in the surface, and where it recognizes, hard points on the ground, and that you're able to add these parameters. It's like, if all these parameters are met, then I can put the river here. Being able to put multiple rivers, add multiple rivers at one time, is pretty great. Where you go through the print, it's like, hey, is there a POI here? Is there a base here? Is there a landing pad here? Is there a hard part on the planet where it wouldn't make sense for a river to go through like a hillside or a mountainside? If all these things have been met, which is it looked pretty extensive, in that you can filter it, to be to be very picky about where where it decides to put the rivers. I felt like, man, it's a fantastic toolkit. Being able to add, multiple rivers at the exact same time. Being able to see where the AI would like to procedurally generate these rivers, and then, actually going through it and being able to visualize where they're about to put it and go, well, this river's pretty short, and this is going to be kind of crap, and so you can delete that from the list. Or this river is going to, run right into a hillside or a mountainside, and that's going to look dumb. So, you can kind of kick that out and redo them. Yeah, man, it looks awesome, and something that we had spoken about before is even with what they had, adding the new derelicts and the colonization outpoints at these different places, and putting in the planetary nav mesh. These are all great things. Where even the Montreal team is even building that toolkit out to where, you know, the way they're putting in these crash sites where they actually have, they have the whole area that when the ship hit the surface, that, it, dug out this big ditch and tore down all the trees, and they're doing a similar thing to like the River Tech, where they're adding in that same type of toolkit where you can say, hey, I want X amount of, ship crashes on the surface of this planet. I want 5 of them, go. And the AI gets to pick out, gets to procedurally generate where all that stuff is, and can add all the, the art features, as in, the huge ditch that gets dug out, all the broken trees, rocks that have been moved, where it, all the displaced dirt, all the things that you would see in a crash site. That, you can say, 1, 2, 3, go. And, it procedurally generates all these things on the planet.
Pretty amazing.
And all the art assets and everything looks great. Looks fantastic. Along with adding the planetary nav mesh to the areas if they were going to be, inhabited. So, all this stuff is going to be great for the future, especially when, things like, I know a lot of this is probably results of things that they develop for Pyro and for Squadron 42.
Yes.
But for the stuff in the future, building out these systems where, it took like a year to build Stanton out almost, or whatever. Now, I think Pyro took, I think they said, 6 months to build Pyro out, to add the planets and all that. Not necessarily all the assets that went into it with, building out the stations and the outpost, but, I think just building the planets. Now, they said that, it's going to probably take, with the way things, the way they've streamlined things and added a lot of this procedural generation to their toolkits and the things that they can do with it, like these rivers or the derelict outpost, is going to be, instead of being, multiple months, it may take, 3 weeks to do the same amount of work that it used to take like 6 months. So that's pretty exciting, especially when you have, 100 systems to build out.
Well, yeah, so that's exactly right. And I think, I just want to throw this out there because it's kind of funny, right? Because we're on the road to the button push, and what I mean by that is someday you do think that when they have all these pipelines together, they're really just going to be able to press a button and it's just going to spin up like, okay, there's 3 planets, 6 moons. They kind of have these biomes, and these atmospheres, and then all of a sudden these rivers, these kind of geological events that are happening. This one's oceanic. It's going to be crazy at some point if they really kind of get to that point. That reminds me of there was this old computer game way back in the 80s called 7 Cities of Gold. it was like you're kind of like it was like you start out in Spain and you kind of land in the free world and unfortunately subjugate all the pueblos and all that thing. But as you kind of went around the map, you began to realize, like when I first started playing, I didn't realize, but you kind of reveal more and more of the map. But eventually you realize, oh, this is South and North America. This is what the map is. But it did have this amazing like other thing, and I remember it took super long where it would generate its own unique map. Like and literally this was mind blowing. So every time you played the game, you could start and it would be just like, it was all the same. It was always the Incas, the Pueblos, and and this type of thing. But they'd be in completely different random areas, or and sometimes it'd be they wouldn't have very much money, and you wouldn't be that successful. Sometimes they were overflowing. But it was just like this thing, though. And I'm really looking forward to that kind of on the Star Citizen thing. All these years later, where they can kind of almost like a randomizer for a character generator. It's like a randomizer for a to build a system, and then just boom, no, boom. This one looks kind of cool, and maybe just start looking at it, and who knows? I mean, maybe it's never going to be quite that loose, fast and loose, if you will, in the sense that I know there's a lot of lore, and so there's going to be some very specific systems in the lore. But some of those outline systems, I think it would be really cool if there was, some really, really strange alien, as things kind of get more, some very, very, very obscure looking things that we just didn't think about or wouldn't recognize, so I'm really looking forward to that future.
Yeah, I know we got to wrap up, but just kind of really quick on that same thought is that's also going to be one of the things where, yes, there is, lore issues that, but a lot of this is kind of in, still in flux. So a lot of these, when we kind of did a little bit of our walkthrough with the star map and kind of looked at, a lot of the systems through there, we'd see, and I think this was before they knew how fast they could, start building these planetary systems out, where I think a lot of the star map, they left it kind of bleak, maybe one planet or no planets, or nothing was there. It was just a star. It was just kind of like, hey, a pass-through point. But I think a lot of that stuff is going to be revisited in the future, now that they know that a lot of this stuff can be built out a lot faster than they initially thought it was going to happen, where they can really fill these systems out and really bring more gameplay into a lot of them, because some of them are, I was kind of like, well, you didn't put anything there. It's basically a dwarf star and some jump points, and that's it. Or the planet was too close to the star to even interact with it. So in a way, I kind of was like, oh, that's just kind of one of those throwaway systems they could chalk up and go, hey, well, I got this system, and add to it without actually adding any gameplay to that one system. So I think now that they've got a lot of this built out, they can kind of revisit a lot of these systems that didn't have many planetary bodies, maybe one or two or none, and say, well, heck, man, we can put 5 or 6 planets here and build out a lot more planets in this system, and try to make them a little bit more diverse, but actually give players a place to go and something to see in that particular system, instead of creating this, basically it's just a drive-through system that goes to somewhere else that really didn't have anything there. It was kind of devoid of life or whatever, but able to kind of expand that a little bit more and fully address a lot of this stuff, instead of saying, well, we had to make a bunch of systems and we're going to leave these blank because it was going to take too long, or whatever the case may be. I think they'll be able to go in and revisit that a little bit. So.
It's so funny. I mean, I think you and I have talked about it, and it's a great place to kind of just kind of, because I mean, the future's coming. 3.18, 3.17.2 is out. With all the bumps of that happened or whatever, it's out. And so 3.18 is coming, and 3.18 is one of those things that's got some, like, you and I are so stoked about this kind of this base tech that's going to open the door for the future and everything that's going to come around the corner. The one thing that for whatever you want to say about Star Citizen, the one thing I still am enamored with is the fact that they have these toolboxes that they build, and then they're trying to kind of interlace them with procedural generation in a way where they will be able to in a very nimble way, like you're speaking to exactly what you were saying there, Zal, in a very nimble way, going back through and looking and saying, we can do more than what the original idea was, because we have these new kind of, this toolbox and this procedural generation capability. And then all that, of course, then allows, it does a lot of the base work, but then they can go in there and really just kind of say, okay, well, this doesn't belong here, or let's change this, or, really, we do have to have a major city here, or whatever, but a lot of the base work can be kind of done, you know what I mean? And that doesn't necessarily require as much technical debt. And so that's an important part of being able to kind of realize the vision as a whole sometime down the road, and so, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting time. I mean, like I said, with all the bumps of 3.17.2 coming out, it's out. We're around the corner now. It's August tomorrow, you know what I mean? So, we got August, we got September, we got October. It's going to be very interesting to see how the next 90 days go in Star Citizen, and I'm super excited about it.
And what's great about a lot of that stuff is, it's not necessarily just kind of hitting the button and say, hey, build all these things and let it roll. Is that, really what it does is it allows, the tools allow for a lot of the heavy lifting. And then it gives the devs time to go in and kind of, handcraft a lot of that stuff together to kind of, bring it all and to make it look, more homemade, if you could say that, or
Mm-hmm.
more handcrafted, and it looks like thought had been, put into it. So a lot of this stuff will still look like it was custom made, but, a lot of the big stuff was, filled in by the procedural generation, and, it's going to make it, make it still all look great, so, and still have the, capabilities of, building out, a lot of the, a lot of the new plant assets and a lot of new tree assets where, everything isn't going to be the same, as that they just get to add that to the toolkit and say, hey, I think all these custom assets that we just built, now add them to the planet, hit the button, go. So,
Yeah, exactly.
so all this stuff is really exciting, and like you said, man, we're right around the corner. We are about to see things, really kind of get put into overdrive. So, it's a great time to start getting into Star Citizen. We still got a little bit of time, but man, we're gonna really start seeing things accelerate. We're gonna start seeing a lot of these big patches be a lot more chunky with things that they add to it, and start putting in people's gameplay that they've really been waiting on, and maybe some of these ships that you've that you did the concept for, and you've been waiting on it for years, and getting those ships in the game, and yeah, so it's going to be pretty great. So I guess that's where we can wrap it up.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, just want to revisit. Thank you, everybody, for hanging in there this week. Like I said, never want to be late, but, sometimes, life spills over. And so, and I really wanted to say thank you to, Zel. I mean, you were incredibly gracious about that this week. And to all you folks that are out there listening and commenting and taking the time to really kind of absorb what it is that we're saying, I really just can't thank you enough for taking the time. It is incredibly fun to do this podcast, and so it's something that, especially as things kind of continue to get just change and evolve, and we've got these big changes on the horizon. It's going to be really fun, and Zel and I have a lot of fun things in store, coming up, and I'll like I do for most of our episodes, I will just defer to Zel to sign us off, and have a lovely night, everybody.
Brother, hopefully I'll always be there, and I know, if we have to do the podcast a couple days late, man, that's absolutely, what we'll do, and life, like you said, life happens, and and I hope everything is gonna turn out great in that aspect. So, but we love this community, and all you guys that tune in and listen. We love to entertain you and talk a little Star Citizen every week. But if you like what you hear, definitely hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. And please, tell us down in the comments what you like about it, what you don't like about it. If you feel like we're doing a good job, just give us a thumbs up, and, put your favorite emoji down in the comment section. But that being said, we'll see you next week on another Rock Runners Report.